Hey guys, how you doing? Pastor Daniel here, doing another leadership podcast. I want to talk today about vision. We're going to have a series of podcasts on vision, what it means. We want to specifically look at vision drift, and momentum today. So we're going to look at vision drift, and momentum as three concepts today that I want you to take away from this. So the first thing is vision. What is vision? And why are you as a leader responsible for vision? Well, vision is painting a picture of where it is that we're trying to go or what we're trying to accomplish. And if I were to split this up into three things that are really important, vision being one of the three, we'd see this. Vision really is part of mission. We've talked about mission before. Vision and our strategy. Mission is the why we do the things that we're doing. At Resurrection Church, our mission is to make the name of Jesus famous, the city, state, and the ends of the earth. So our mission is the why we do what we do. It's the motivation behind everything that we're doing. So it's the why or the motivation. And our strategy, which we're not going to cover today, is the how. So the strategy is how do we go about enacting this plan. And so if mission is motivation, I would call strategy machination. The procedures, the strategy, the work that needs to be done to make it happen. But vision is actually probably the toughest. It's the most important. It's the thing that we as leaders are the most responsible for all the time. And vision is the what. Vision is the what. Or what I would like to call the destination. So I guess you could call that a where too. What is it we're trying to accomplish? What does the end goal look like? Paint me a picture for what it is we're trying to get done or where we want to be. If it's vision in your life, maybe you're talking about what I want my family to look like, what I want my future to look like. If it's vision of an organization, there are a series of things we want to get accomplished. And vision is the ability of a leader to be able to actually paint that picture, explain what that looks like. And so there are levels of this. One is to just explain what the vision is, but another and critical in part of the talent of explaining the vision is painting a visual picture, being able to talk about what it would feel like if the vision were accomplished, what it would mean, what the impact would be, what it would, close your eyes and can you imagine, if you're the Israelites coming out of Egypt, can you imagine the promised land? And you look at the language even around the promised land, and there's a picture in the Bible where God has almost painted a picture of what the promised land looks like for the Israelites, that it is the land of milk and honey. He is beginning to engage their senses to create a sensory picture of what the vision is. And it is a leader's job to be able to do that. The leader has to be able to not only explain the vision, but paint the picture. In fact, I go so far as to say this. In fact, in Proverbs we hear that without a vision, the people perish. So vision is this key goal that we all have to share, and we have to know what it is on our teams and in our organizations. But Bill Hybels would say years ago in a leadership talk that if we were to boil it all down, vision is getting people from here to there. Vision is when you have a team, an organization, a family unit, anybody here, vision is being able to say, hey, let's talk about what this looks like. And let's talk about why we want to get there. And let's talk about what it would feel like to be there. And let's talk about engage all the senses, right? The imagination. Can you see it? Can you smell it? Can you taste what it would look like if we could accomplish whatever the vision is? And it's the leader's job to be able to engage those senses of their team, their organization, whoever they lead, and be able to paint a picture of this. In fact, I'll take it a step further. It's a leader's job after painting this to get their team, whoever is following them, whoever they're leading, so maybe it's family, to understand that they can't stay here. So oftentimes in painting a picture of the vision, the leader has to come in and say, look, let me talk about the cost if we stay here. Let me talk about what the cost looks like if we don't get this done. Let me talk about what the cost looks like if we don't move toward achieving the vision. That's the leader's job. That's part of painting the picture of vision, of communicating vision, and doing that really, really well. And the point about vision that I want you to take away, and I'm going to repeat this a couple times, is as a leader, the fundamental question I'm asking my team is, do you know what the vision is? If my team members cannot answer for me what the vision of the team is, of what the vision of the organization is, I have some significant problems. And I'll explain why as we talk about some other leadership concepts where vision comes in and it's so critical. But if you have a team that doesn't understand where you're going, now, ideally, if they've bought into the mission, they know why you're trying to get there, to make the name of Jesus famous at Resurrection Church. But they have to know where. And the reason they have to know where is we want to make sure we're all actually trying to get to the same place. And we'll cover that in just a minute. But if you have team members that cannot answer what the vision is, they don't understand what it is that you're trying to get accomplished, where you're trying to get inside the organization, then we have some fundamental problems because you're constantly going to have confusion. Okay, so you as a leader are responsible for explaining the vision. You're responsible for explaining where it is the organization's going, where it is that the team is going, or the ministry or the department, and you're responsible for checking to make sure that team members are clear and that they can answer the question of where they're going. You're also responsible if you feel like you don't have the buy-in from people in the vision, you're responsible for painting a picture of why you can't stay here, why the status quo is not going to work. Those are the responsibilities of a leader when it comes to vision. And just quickly so you know, and this is a side note we won't cover today, but one of the great things that you'll hear if you ever read John Maxwell is people have to buy into the leader before they'll buy into the vision. So just as a side note, if you feel like you're really struggling to get people to buy into your vision, there's sort of a check that you might need to do, and we can talk about that offline. That is it the vision they're not buying into? Am I not painting the picture clearly enough? Or do they not buy into me as a leader? Because if they don't trust you as a leader, they won't buy into your vision either. Now, how do you go about doing this? Well, first of all, I talked about engaging the five senses, right? So I've got to tie everything together. I have to be able to paint a picture that's so clear and so engaging that my team can imagine it, they can see it, they can see the impact of it. That is a motivating thing. The other thing that is by far the most critical when it comes to vision casting, sharing vision, checking on vision, is you have to model it. If you're not modeling, if you're not living the vision yourself, if you have a vision and you can explain it really well, you can paint a great picture of it, but you're not actually doing it, it's not going to go very far. So your responsibility when it comes to vision. Now, let me talk about two things that we see. We're going to cover one in a little more depth today. There are two problems oftentimes once you've cast vision. One of them is called vision leak, and one of them is called vision drift. Now, vision leak we're not going to cover today, but basically you can do a lot of vision work, and everyone's, we'll call them vision buckets. Everyone's vision bucket's full. We're all excited. We all can see the picture. We're all ready to go to the promised land. And over time, that leaks out and that dissipates. And sometimes it happens very quickly. And so we'll talk about some ways to measure vision leak and to check on that in another podcast. But vision drift is different. Vision drift is where you've set up the course, and here is, we'll call it there. This is where we're going right here, and everybody kind of starts that way, and then when you begin to check, you find that people are no longer headed in the exact same direction. And we call that vision drift. And so Bill Hybels would actually say this. He'd say, the drift in life is always to a lesser vision. And so what happens is after you've painted the vision, you think everyone's headed that direction, because it fades a little bit, people will misinterpret the vision. They will put their own spin on it. Oftentimes, out of comfort or ease, they will pick a lesser version of the vision, and you will begin to get this divestiture of paths away from where your team was going, your organization was going, and this gets harder the bigger the organization is. So if I'm dealing with a team of 5 people, it's fairly simple for me to check on those 5 and make sure they're all headed in the same direction. But if it's 5,000 people, it's significantly harder. Vision drift is a real thing. We talk about ways to correct vision drift all the time. I'll give you a couple today. Vision drift occurs when you are not painting the vision picture with enough detail. If you're being too vague about the vision, if you're being too vague about what it is you're trying to get done, you will have different interpretations of that throughout your teams. You've got to be specific. Secondly, if you're not modeling, if you're not living this, you're going to get vision drift. You're going to get vision drift and vision leak. But if you're not modeling the vision, you're going to watch people just all over the place picking something different because you haven't lived it out. They don't know what it looks like to live it out either. You can explain it, but until you do it, they're not going to believe that. And they're not going to understand it. And then lastly, it hasn't been reinforced. So oftentimes maybe you've done a good job painting the picture and you're trying to model it, but you're not reinforcing it. And we'll talk about that in another podcast. But if you're not reinforcing the vision, people will begin to put their own interpretation on that vision, and then off it goes. And then it feels like you're herding cats, right? Because everyone's just running in different directions and you can't understand why. It's because no longer do they share the same vision with the right type of clarity that is necessary to actually move in the same direction. And we see this in organizations all the time. We see organizations that set what they thought was a clear vision early on, and then when you go and look at members in the organization, whether it's different teams or divisions or departments, you'll find that the paths suddenly have moved and self-interest has moved in, and so it is the leader's job to come back in and ensure not only is the vision clear, but that everyone is has a shared picture of what that vision is, and they're all bought in, they're going the same direction. Okay, so vision drift is a real thing. You've got to check on it. There are reasons, usually the leader's fault, that vision drift is occurring. And then lastly, let's talk about momentum. So vision is very closely tied to momentum. I want to show you what that looks like real quick. I think where we talk about momentum the most in everyday life is probably like when you're watching some sort of sporting event, right? So you're watching a basketball game or a football game, and an announcer will say, oh, they've really got momentum right now, like something that the tide has changed. They feel like things have accelerated, right? One team feels like they're confident, things are going their way, and now there's the big mo or momentum. So momentum is actually a combination of 3 things in leadership. And if you kind of multiply these out, you'll see it. It is mass times velocity. I know this feels like physics all over again. Times direction. This is momentum. Okay? What do I mean by that? Well, how many people on the team in the organization? That's mass. Velocity, how quickly, how passionate are things getting done toward that vision. And direction, meaning are they actually all going in the same direction, doing the same things? Because only if they're traveling together does that create momentum. The moment things spread out, there's no more momentum left. And if you have great vision paired with good leadership, you will get momentum. Now, momentum is incredibly powerful. Momentum is like the great exaggerator. That's what John Maxwell would call it. Meaning that when you have momentum, it makes leaders look even better than they really are. When you have momentum in an organization, it makes the team members look more effective and sometimes feel and be more effective than they really are because they have momentum on their side. Something that happened to me when I was a teenager, I started playing basketball. And I'd only played basketball for a year or two, and I had moved into Bakersfield, and I had a couple buddies that I had met here, and they were much better at basketball than I was. And so I was playing one of them one-on-one, and I had just lost pretty badly. And one of the guys was very good. He came to me and said, hey, I want you to play him again. And so I was like, okay, fine. So we start to play, and he begins from the moment I touch the ball to talk to me. I mean, just encouraging me. He's like, you're going to kill this guy. And he's just nonstop. He won't shut up. There's no silence. There's no gap. Like, he fills the entire room that we're in as we're in the gym, just constantly. He's telling the other guy he's going to get trashed, and he's telling me how much better I am. And here's what happens. I make the first bucket. Well, now, as a result of there being a positive outcome to what he's basically predicted, well, now he's on fire. And so with his own energy, he's like, oh, look at what's happening. And he doubles down on the trash talk. And he's not even playing. He's just sitting there trash talking this guy and talking me up. Well, I go on to beat this other guy 11-0. The guy I just lost to. And by the end, the guy who's been doing all the talking is just at a fervor pitch. I mean, he is just hooting and hollering, having a blast. And the point was this: I actually was a lot better than the guy I was playing. But through my friend talking through, predicting, almost prophesying, casting a vision of how much better I could be, and then at each little step where there was a positive outcome, reinforcing that positive outcome and taking that positive outcome back to this idea that you're better and you're going to kill this guy. By that constant feedback, I begin to gain confidence. I begin to actually play better than I really was. I begin to think I was better than I actually was. And by the end, I thought I was really, really good. And the same thing happens with momentum. You see, when your team or your organization begins to get momentum, you begin to look at what are almost unovercomable obstacles, and you begin to think it's not that overcomable. It's not that hard. That obstacle's not that big. You begin to look at things that you previously thought you'd never be able to solve, and you go, I think we could solve that now. Momentum has the ability to actually mask problems and allow you to work through them and give you a confidence to do things you wouldn't have done. So what we're trying to get in momentum is we're trying to get our teams to create momentum. Now, how do we do this, and where do we start? Because let's be honest, if I have no mass, meaning I don't have anyone actually doing this, it's just me going in a direction and doing stuff, that's not very effective overall. And that's certainly not momentum. And if I have a lot of people, and we're working really hard, but we're going in different directions, I don't have any momentum. In fact, what I'll actually do is just start lots of different things, but not really getting anything done. I won't finish, certainly. And if we're going in the right direction, and there's a lot of people, but we're barely moving, then I'm also not very effective. So you got to have all three. But more than anything, you have to start with direction. Like, this is the vision aspect. This is understanding we're all going to the same thing, the same destination, trying to get the same thing done. And if I could just get this right, and then slowly build people on my team. Like, I'm checking team member after team member. Are we on the same page? Do we have the same vision? Are we headed in the same direction? Because if I'm doing this correctly, as I add mass, then I'll be able to really pick up the velocity. Then I'll be able to really get the team going and cranking. And once you have momentum, it feeds itself. So what am I telling you about momentum for? Because clearly I want you to cast vision. I want you to check on vision. We're going to talk about some questions around that. But why are we explaining momentum? I'm explaining momentum because primarily momentum comes from the leader. If you want momentum in your ministry, in your department, in your area, in your organization, more than anything, that momentum actually comes from you. It is from inside the leader. It is the passion of the leader and the clarity of vision, and them engaging a team with that vision and ensuring that everyone in the team is sharing that vision, and we have the same vision, and we're headed in the same direction, and we have the same motivation to move forward. And I do one of two things with the team members that aren't. I work with them to get them up to speed in the same direction, or I get them off the bus. Because I'm trying to build momentum, and momentum is largely built from inside the leader. It means it's your responsibility to build momentum inside your area, your department, your ministry, your organization. Okay, so real quickly, talking about vision, just to recap. Vision is the essential element of leadership. People must believe in you before they'll believe in your vision. So if you're wondering why people aren't buying into your vision, it might be that they don't buy into you, and we should check on that. Everyone in your team or area should be able to answer the question, what's the vision? And that's a check for you. Vision drift is a real thing that you need to check on to make sure everyone continues to. So even though you think you've set vision with them a month ago or 6 months ago, you got to continue to check on that to make sure they still have a clear picture of what the vision is. You have to paint a clear picture, and you have to model what that vision is. And that's on you as a leader. We are all striving to get momentum. And because momentum largely comes from inside the leader, it is our responsibility as leaders to build momentum. We do that through painting a clear picture, ensuring that we have vision and we don't have vision drift, and beginning to try through internal passion of what we're doing and buy-in of our goal, mission, and vision to uniquely engage each of our team members to make sure they're running in the same direction and they're catching up to the same speed, so we can build some mass on that team, which creates momentum, which then has an exponential effect on getting things done. All right, that was our talk on vision. I have some questions for you, and we'll follow up with your teams.